Okay, so today's video is on 5 changes that 5 teams could make, basically. And on Twitter I mentioned these 5 teams, and the changes they can make, and this current CSGO landscape to improve their respective positions in the world. And those teams were Natus Vincere, Navi, Hellraisers, FaZe Clan, C9, and Shox needs a team. So let's start with Navi. Edward, Simple, Flamey, Electronic, and Zeus. And on paper, this team seems amazing, and has everything you ever want in a dominant CIS team, but it isn't up to the standard and ultimately has failed to meet or surpass the expectations set by many professionals in the scene. Simple is one of the best, is in his best form right now, and is arguably the best player in the world as well. And if not the best, he's certainly the best at what he does, which is shit on everyone in a manner that is so unique to Simple that no one else can do it at all. And he'd definitely be one of the players that would go down in history for this. And Flamey has had a return to form over the last 6 months, and has come back into its element after a very shaky 2016 going into 2017, and is proving a great counterpart within this team to Simple and Electronic, and he's doing alright. He isn't quite the Electronic from Flipside, but with the revival of Flamey, I think you can give this guy a little while to sort himself out, see if he can find his groove within the team. And you don't really want to remove him either, because if he goes elsewhere and then he hits his form, they could be in trouble. And then there's Edward, a member of the old guard, legendary CS player, but he really has been in a spot up on it, honestly, and he looks like he looks lost in today's cutthroat, ride or die, fast-paced action from the likes of Dupree, Stewie, Fur, and Nico that are throwing in terms of entry fraggers, and I just think he needs to go, honestly. I mean, the current format of teams is just to load up a lineup with lots of firepower, like FaZe, or like G2, Cloud9 and such, and they trust like an IGL plus a support, or maybe just an IGL on its own. And so I propose you take Edward out of the team, and you look to either get a Dren or Hobbit from Gambit. And Gambit's in a weird spot right now. They've gone back to becoming and being an occasional upset team, but both these players, Dren and Hobbit, have had their careers tanked at arguably their peaks by taking on the burden of becoming the IGL, and that happened obviously after the major winning in PGL Krakow, where they lost Zeus, who went to Navi. Before this happened, however, we were touting Adren as one of the top 5 entry fraggers in the world, and calling Hobbit an up-and-coming star, and both could be saved by this move, I think. So they could get Adren, and they put him back in an entry position perhaps, or even as like a second or third in, and just let this guy pick up the scraps with Simple and Flamey. And he's going to get those kills, and more importantly, he's going to get it consistently, and that's going to be a common theme that I'm going to talk about in this video, which is consistency, which is a word that's thrown around, and there's no real metric or there's no arbitrary number system we can apply to it, but it's obviously one thing that certain players are very good at and others aren't. He's got great aim and great game sense, so he's going to be he's quite good at clutching as well, which would be a really useful part of this team, and he will be a really valued member within that team, and obviously Zeus knows how good he is, so I think if they were to make a move now to get Adren, they could really start getting their shit together now before the other teams do, and perhaps get themselves towards the top of echelons, now top 3 instead of top 5, and that could improve them. Now, I think Hobbit as well, on the other hand, is a bit more of a long-term investment. He's got a lot of years left in his career as a young talent in a sense, and, he was a very, very good player, and with this IGL role, it's really, really affecting him, so putting him back into his element in a sense could really help himself and the team, and it gives you a safety net if Electronic doesn't improve and find his groove. So then, if Electronic starts to, not fit in with this team as well, then you've got a safety net because you've got another young star who you can bank on for the next 6 to 12 months. And, with Hobbit back in his element, which is just tapping heads, could be a really great addition. Now, the second team is Hellraisers. And I know they're not a top team in the world, but again, that's not about what this video is about. It's more about improving each team's respective standings in the world rankings, that is, and helping them improve in an upwards arc or stop them from stagnating and hitting a plateau, which some of these teams have. So Hellraisers has always been a bit of an upset team, and much like Gambit used to be, they were the guardians of top 10, basically, and no one would really get past them and start edging into top 10 without being a decent team. So with their latest additions of Issa and Woxix, they're both gone from really like zero to hero in a sense. Like we didn't think anything of them. We thought they were both a bit shit. Thought we were just onliners, and they've really come out and they've really started proving us wrong in a sense. And it's quite nice. It's quite nice to be proven wrong by these two players. And they're on their way back to becoming a serious threat to top 10 once again and getting back into that position. However, there's a serious problem, and that's Dead Fox. It's a player who's given us a taste of what he can do at his best, but ultimately has failed to provide consistent top-level performances, and even mid-level performances for this team. He's not been good enough at all. Now, arguably, with Bondic and Woxit playing really well at the moment, you could say you don't need him to. He just needs to be there and get frags, and sometimes he doesn't even do that. And his stats and his in-game performance has just been tanking so hard over the last 6 to 12 months, and it's starting to show he's not showing any real signs of sustainable improvements. I know at the last event that they played at, I think it was the V4 Future Esports event. I think that was the one. I might have got them confused with another. He had like a few good rounds, but it ultimately didn't lead to anything, and he just went back to being pretty shit, honestly. And for now, Hellraiser still has a decent name within the region and within Counter-Strike. Everyone knows Hellraisers in a sense, and they could offer up-and-coming talents in the surrounding regions a great opportunity to test their mettle against Tier 1 and Tier 2 opponents. So I'm going to put forward players who I think could really be interesting to see within this team, and that's Quickert from Avangar, or maybe Jumqua, JMQA, from QB Fire. Now, Jumqua might be a little bit harder because, of course, QB Fire do have a legend spot, because they placed 5th through 8 at the last major, and they might want to keep that whole team together, they might be a bit close together and such. But the reason why I chose him is that he's from Russia, he has a decent performance, much like Isso and Woxic had, and way back when Dead Fox was an upcoming. He seemingly came out of nowhere and showed a lot of promise within his team, much like Isso, Woxic, and Dead Fox have all done over a certain period of time to different degrees within Hellraisers. And I think, in the same form, that Jimqua could be another rising star in a sense. Not necessarily a star in the sense that he's going to be the top fragger, but he's someone who came out of nowhere and could fit this team quite well. He wasn't the best in every match that he's played, just. But like I said, doesn't definitely need to, with Woxit and Bondic doing the most heavy liftings. 9 times out of 10, if he could just pick up the other time, then you're already doing better than Dead Fox is within this team. Now, Quickert from Avangar, in my mind, is the better player to get. And once again, an outlier, in a sense, that Avangar shocked us few of us when we expected them just to get absolutely wrecked at the major. In many sense they did, but there were some over-performances, and they're doing pretty well afterwards. They did get stumped at IEM Katowice. They lost all 3 maps they played. They lost 2 maps to Renegades and 1 to SK. But surprisingly, Quickert still had pretty good statistics, and he averaged a 1.02 on the HLTV ratings in those 3 maps. There's only 3 maps, of course, but he didn't just lie down. He didn't get wrecked. So I think Quickert could add a lot to Hellraisers, and I think the lineup would have a better chance progressing upwards the rankings than Avangar currently does. Now, the third team is FaZe Clan. Now, as my friend and former colleague pointed out on Twitter, FaZe is probably the most consistent team right now, and we have an era where there's no real top teams because a lot of them are in a state of turmoil. Na'Vi has a super scary CIS team that's floundering, SK are seemingly falling apart, C9 are failing to keep that major winning momentum, and the Danish region are just lurking like sleeping beasts at the edge. So, FaZe Clan should be crushing their opponents at every step with these pieces of the puzzle. But no, I'd say they're the best team right now, but there's way too many holes in this defense. Every time they lose a close series, it's like the other team did some mad Death Star run through the belly of the beast, bombed the shit out of FaZe Clan's core, and just escaped with enough time to win the entire tournament. And just like in Star Wars, no one ever stopped and asked why there's a massive fucking tunnel leading to their biggest weakness. Now, there's 2 possible things you could do. One is pretty outlandish, and probably wouldn't happen, but I'm sticking with the fantasy stuff right now, and the other one's more feasible. So, you could replace Karrigan, one of the sources of the many problems, with Shox, a guy who has been ripped from this GT lineup because he wasn't afraid to make the tough calls and suggest what would have been a major shake-up to improve his region. With FaZe Clan, you could get arguably the much unneeded firepower from the IGL, who has called a fraggy, minimal tactics playstyle most of his career, and it could turn some of these closer games FaZe are losing into great clinch wins for them instead. Now, obviously, Shockshot's makes his own team with Smiths, and he's going through surgery on his hand and such, so it's probably not going to happen, but I'm thinking outside the box here a little bit. Now, the more feasible change is a change in coaching staff. Sounds a bit basic, I know, but a fresh set of eyes in the situation could seriously help some of the wider issues Carrigan is facing. For example, in the major final versus C9 on Inferno, they were allowed bracket control almost every round from C9 on the T side, and C9 would just run down the clock to the last 30 seconds and then throw Molotovs and really make it difficult for Carrigan and his team. Now, from an outside point of view, I know I can see more. I've got observer mode to help me, but I think only one, maybe two occasions, I don't think it was even two, did Carrigan, and the one time I can think of right now is that he did it by himself, and the team tried to use a B split into CT, and literally, from what I remember, it was one of the later rounds in the half, Carrigan went there by himself, and he got picked by the rotator. Now, a B split through the CT area of the map, an area that C9 did not put very many players or much preference on, or even tried to protect it really. They were playing 3 inside sight a lot of the time, or what could have been solved with just a smoke on library. Considering they'd be given that brackets control, you could have unraveled the C9 draw down the time plan and netted yourself just one round, which, if you remember, is basically what they lost by, because they lost to Stewie in a 1v3 at the back of site in the last 15-14 round, in the last couple seconds. So even just a single B split, using the knowledge that bracket control is being given to you, could have netted in the one round that could have won the entire event. But that's just my point of view. I think maybe a set of fresh coaching eyes could offer something different than whatever the current coaching staff is offering. Now, the fourth team is C9, and as stated before, this team has really struggled to keep their major winning momentum behind them and hasn't lived up to be the NA superheroes that many wanted them to be. The major run was helped by a very important and impactful factor, that is Skadoodle. He had possibly the greatest performance he's ever had at a tournament, and maybe more if you include the context, that is, thanks to him stepping up, he made history with C9, being the first North American team to win a Valve-sponsored major, and he netted himself an MVP, which is another first for a major. But since then, he's dropped off massively, and I think it's time he took the same route as Shroud and moved on with his life. Yes, he's an amazing achievement with C9, but they need to make the move sooner rather than later before some of the up-and-coming talent, the younger talent, goes elsewhere. Now, ideally, I'd say replace him with Nafly. He's a great fit and a great replacement, but with him being on the main rivals team, Team Liquid, he's off the books. Nifty, on the other hand, would be an amazing pickup right now, and could really give C9 the edge over Liquid in the tussle for top 2 in NA, and allow them a better challenge to dominant AWPers like Device, Kenny S, and Guardian, because Nifty has the skill ceiling and the hunger to keep improving as he has all the way throughout his career. Even if this Stewie to SK move does go through, which is the report going through currently, because it could fall apart at any point, I think Nifty could fill the gap left by Stewie. It would be a lot harder, however, because it's good firepower in one position of the map being replaced by another different set of firepower in another area, but Nifty to C9 should definitely be the next move. And then the last team I'm talking about is the Shox team, and it's him making the third power in France. Now, supposedly, Shocksmiths and Existence is going to make a team together, and there's a lot of potentials for the end-all look of this team. Now, apparently, if the MBK Mixwell project in G2 goes sour, Kenny S is willing to leave G2 to join Shocksmiths and Existence. Supposedly, this is what's been said. And even if that doesn't happen, there's a great chance for the duo of David Duvek and Amanek, formerly of Misfits, and I'm not too sure where they are currently, but I think putting themselves with these 3 players of Shocksmith and Existence could be a really great chance for them to create a decent third French power. And it would be not only a chance of great success on a national level, but also an international scale, hitting for those top 10s, definitely. The extra bonus is, if any of these players can be at any point, if Kenny S does come knocking on the door, or perhaps his Zulu kid or whatever wants to step up to the plate, there's a great chance for this team to get themselves cut out their own little niche within France and on an international scale. So that does it for my 5 teams that could need changes. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below, or tweet me at _the night manager. Sorry, at _ night manager. And I'd love to discuss these topics more, because I love theorizing this kind of way. So please do shoot me some questions over on Twitter or in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. And if you want more of this kind of stuff, do let me know. So thank you very much. Have a good day.